G'day, I'm Mark Hoth and welcome to Swift Almanac, where we teach you the basics of Swift in 10 minutes or less. Today's lesson is initialization. So let's have a look at initialization in 10 minutes or less. Initializers are called when a new instance of a type is created and it has the general form init, bracket, bracket, and then whatever's within these braces is what is processed. So if we look at this structure for Fahrenheit, which will have a temperature which will be a double, then we can have an initializer that sets the initial temperature value to be 32.0, which is of course a double. We can then create a variable of type Fahrenheit. This indicates that we're calling the initializer, and then when we print the default temperature is f.temperature, it will show that the default temperature is 32.0. You can also have multiple initialization functions with different parameters. So if we look at Celsius, this structure, we can have a variable, the temperature in Celsius, which is also a double, and we can have two initializers, one from Fahrenheit, where it does this calculation of the past variable Fahrenheit minus 32 divided 1.8, or we can do an initializer from Kelvin. Kelvin is passed also a double, where the temperature in Celsius is equal to Kelvin minus 273.15, which is of course absolute zero. So to call these, we can let the boiling point of water equal Celsius from Fahrenheit equals 212, and we could also say let the freezing point of water be Celsius from Kelvin to 73.15. Both of those variables are calling a different initializer from Celsius, but something is being initialized. So when it comes to classes and constants, constants must have a value before the initialization is complete. So if we look at this class survey question, we've got a constant text here, string, and the variable response, which is an optional string. So in the initializer, we're setting the text constant to be the text that's passed as the initializer, and we have a function ask, which is just printing the text. So whenever we were to create a survey question, place a string variable in, then that is going to pass successfully. So within classes, all constants must be defined before the end of the initialization procedure. Now, for classes, there are also default initializers which Swift will provide for any class that does not have its own initialization function. So here we haven't defined an init function within the class, but we can still create the variable item from our shopping list items. It's calling an initializer, but there isn't one, so Swift will place default values into all of these variables. Now, a really nifty feature is the member-wise initializers for structs. So when a struct is created, the compiler will allow us to do, will automatically create member-wise initializers for us. And you can see here that it's created this width double, height double for us to complete automatically within the IDE, which is a nifty little feature. Now, if you have a subclass with an initializer, then you must also call the subclass initializer. So in our example in inheritance, you would have seen this vehicle type, and essentially we're creating a tricycle. How many wheels? It's going to be set to 3 on initialization, and we also need to call this Super.Init function, which will call the initializer function for vehicle and any other superclass that forms part of the hierarchy. Note, you only need to do this if you create an initialization function. Finally, you can create failable initializers which return optionals. I'm not going to cover those, but just be aware that they do exist, and you should also be aware that there is something called two-stage initialization. And again, I'm not covering that in this series of courses because this is a basic Swift tutorial and that's an advanced function. Well, that's it for initialization. If you have any questions about the tutorial, then please leave a comment below or hit me up on Twitter @SwiftAlmanac. So please subscribe to the channel, it's free, and check out our website at www.swiftalmanac.com. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.